Hi everyone, this is Miss Weidenhammer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the cardiac cycle in my backyard. It's an absolutely beautiful day outside, so I figured why not record the lesson outside. So we're first for this lesson going to have a do now on the structures of the heart. So if you go to the Google Classroom and open up the heart labeling document, you can go in and I want you to try to label the parts of the heart without looking at your notes first, and then going back and seeing if you got it right or if you needed extra help for any of the structures. You can look back to your notes. So this is going to be our do now for today. So make sure you're going in here and making sure you understand where all the structures of the heart are and what they're doing and how the blood is flowing through them. So first do that, and then you can come on over to your notes, take out your notes packet, and we can start the cardiac cycle. So today what we're going to be talking about is how the atria and the ventricle contract and how that plays a role in how the blood is moving throughout the heart and how it's making different sounds. So when the doctor puts the stethoscope up to your heart and listens for your heart sounds, this is where they're getting those sounds from. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So first, again, we have a video that does a nice overview of what we're going to be talking about today. I want you to take a look at that after you go through and take notes on what I'm about to go through with the cardiac cycle, and I'll remind you to do that after we go through it as well. So take your notes packet out. Let's go through the different steps of the cardiac cycle. Before we do that, though, I want to go through different vocabulary that we're going to need. Oh, there's a bug. Different vocabulary that we are going to need to know before you jump in. So first and foremost, throughout the cardiac cycle, there is something called diastole and systole, and that's going to explain the relaxation and contraction of the heart. So first, if you take a look down here at the speaker notes, we're going to go through some vocabulary. First, diastole is the phase of the heartbeat when the heart muscle relaxes and allow the chambers to fill with blood. How I think of it is diastole, it kind of sounds like die or dead. And when an organism is dead, it no longer breathes. It's kind of just relaxing there, chilling out. So that's how I remember diastole. Okay, systole over here is the phase of the heartbeat when the heart muscle contracts and pumps blood from the chambers into the arteries. So systole is when the heart is contracting or when a chamber of the heart is contracting. When I talk about AV valves coming up, AV valves are our atrioventricular valves. So that's going to include the tricuspid and the bicuspid. So wherever there are valves in between the atria and the ventricles. And then we also have our SL valves that we'll be talking about during our explanation of the cardiac cycle. And SL valves are our semilunar valves, and those are going to include the pulmonary valve and the aortic valve. So going from the ventricle to the pulmonary vein or the pulmonary artery, excuse me, and the aortic valve is your valve that is connecting your left ventricle going into your aorta. So now that we have some of that vocabulary down, let's take a look at the different sequences of events of the cardiac cycle. We're first going to take a look at diastole. And remember, diastole is when the heart is relaxing. So let's take a look, and as I go through, you can write it down in your notes slide. You have an empty space for it. So first, the atria and ventricles are relaxed during diastole. Like we said, the definition of diastole is relaxation. So that helps you out. Atria and ventricles are relaxed. So taking a look at it, when they're relaxed, you can see that arrows are coming in. So blood is flowing into the heart from the body. It's also going to be flowing into the left atria as well from the lungs. So relaxed, blood's flowing in. Okay. And right here, blood flows into the heart from the veins. Our next third bullet is that the AV valves open. So when the blood fills up in the atria, that high pressure is going to allow the blood to go into the ventricles, both on the right and the left side. So as blood is filling up in the atria, it's going to move into the ventricles because the AV valves, the bicuspid and the tricuspid, are going to open, allowing blood to get into the ventricles. And our last is that our SL valves are closed. So if you look at it right here where my cursor is, we have our pulmonary valve and our aortic valve are closed because the blood is still just sitting in the atria and the ventricles. So no contractions have occurred yet. Everything's relaxed. Okay. Next up, we have the atrial systole. And remember, systole means we're now contracting. So atrial systole is meaning that the atria is going to be contracting, both of them, so both the right and the left atrium. So looking at our picture, right here, it says that the atria contracts. So if our atria are contracting, it's going to be pushing the blood into both the ventricles. So now all the blood that's in the atrium is going to be pushed into the ventricles. So at this time, our first bullet, the atria is going to contract. Second bullet, ventricles are relaxed. So at this point, the ventricles are just accepting the blood from the atria. They're relaxing, they're still having a good time, just allowing that blood to come in. Our third bullet, blood pushed into it says atria, it should be ventricles. The blood is pushed into the ventricles here, okay, so you can make that correction. Our AV valves are now open. Our atrioventricular valves, our bicuspid and tricuspid valves are open. They're going to allow blood to flow into both of the ventricles. And last but not least, the SL valves are still closed. So again, our semilunar or our pulmonary valve and our aortic valve, they are both still closed if you look at the picture. Next up, we have ventricular systole. I hope you all kind of get the gist of it now. Ventricular systole is contraction. So here we're going to have our ventricles contracting. Ventricular systole. Let's take a look at our first bullet. Our first bullet goes into and says the atria is relaxed. So the atria during atrial systole has done its job. It's contracted and it's allowed blood to be pushed into the ventricles. Now, our second bullet, our ventricles are going to contract, and this is going to cause our third bullet. The third bullet says blood pushed into the arteries. So now that our ventricles are contracting, our right and our left both are contracting, they're now going to push blood either away and to the lungs to grab oxygen, or if you're talking about the left ventricle, you're going to be pushing the blood through the aorta and out to the rest of the body. So again, blood is being pushed into the arteries whenever there's ventricular systole or ventricular contraction. Our fourth bullet says our AV valves are now closed, and that is going to act as our first heart sound, and it's going to be a lub sound. So as you can see here, our atrioventricular valves are closed. So again, looking at the picture, our bicuspid and tricuspid valves are closed now. And when they close, they're going to make a sound. So you can think of, okay, when a door closes, it makes a sound. So are the valves. And when the atrioventricular valves close, they are going to make the first heart sound. And that heart sound is going to be lub. So again, now that our ventricles have pushed blood out of the heart, either to grab some oxygen from the lungs or to push it throughout the body, we're going to push that blood through the semilunar valve. So if you can see here on our right ventricle, it's going to push blood out through the valve, and our left ventricle is going to do the same thing. It's going to push blood through the valve and into the aorta. Once that blood has been pushed out of the ventricles, those valves are then going to close and you're going to circle back into diastole. So on the bottom here during diastole where it says the SL valves closed and heart sound 2, that heart sound 2 happens because the blood from the ventricles have been pushed out and now we don't want any backflow back into the ventricles, so they are going to close and create the second heart sound, which is dub. So if you listen to your heartbeat with a stethoscope, you can hear the lub dub as your valves are closing shut based off of preventing backflow into the chamber, into the area where your blood was just was. So that is the overview of the cardiac cycle, how your heart is going from diastole to systole, and how your valves are making the sounds because they close to prevent the backflow back into a certain chamber. So that is the lecture for today. So make sure you go through and answer all of your notes for that. And I'm going to ask you again to go back to the cardiac cycle here and watch this video because it is a really good overview and it shows you exactly how the heart is moving and contracting with the images that we just saw. So once you are all set with that, you can go back into Google Classroom, and for homework tonight, you're going to have a cardiac cycle web quest. And when you go to that web quest in Google Classroom, it's going to look like this. So what you're going to be doing first is watching the video on the cardiac cycle. So some of these do use, I believe, Adobe, and if your Adobe is not working, all you have to do is go to the little puzzle icon that will show up on your screen on the side here. You're going to press it and then allow your computer to use Adobe. And then all you have to do is click on the image here, like if you clicked on it, and then press allow, it'll allow you to view. So if you're having trouble with that, feel free to email me, but you can follow the directions that I just stated. That'll probably help you out. So I want you to go in and use the links that are here, and you're going to be defining diastole and systole, and you're going to be going through this chart and table here, going through what's exactly happening in diastole, systole, and using your notes to do that, and the videos as well. And then last but not least, number 3, you are going to watch this or use this link to allow you to answer what exactly is going on with the first heart sound and what exactly is going on with the second heart sound being made by the valves. So again, if you have any questions on anything, please feel free to ask, please email, please join the Google Hangout, and like and subscribe below because we are now officially YouTube members. Okay, so have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I will see you soon. Be well.